Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You can see the screen also?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Fine. Thank you. So we were discussing about convection diffusion problems. In particular, the momentum equations, solution of momentum equations, not general convection diffusion problems, but momentum equations, which we noted that is difficult to solve because of the extra pressure gradient term. And we have discussed what are the ways to overcome it. So the option that is left to us is to devise some strategy so that the extra equation, which is the continuity equation, can be modified cleverly in terms of sub pressure equation or pressure correction equation. Basically, you have to relate the pressure. Just wait for a minute. My throat is causing some problem. Okay, let us continue. So, by using clever strategy, we have to modify the continuity equation and bring some information about pressure or pressure means something related to pressure out of that. And we have seen two methods. One is known as the simple method, which is the basic method, which have been devised the earliest, and it uses very clever strategy to formulate the formulate a pressure correction equation, which we called as pressure correction equation uh, from the continuity equation. Okay, if you go through the material, it will become clear again. But we need to remember this for today's discussion also. Maybe I will just briefly go over it again, because all these methods are extension of that method. Then from simple, we have seen that the method can be modified significantly to make it faster by adding couple of more steps to get something which is known as simpler algorithm. Okay. So we will see two more methods today. One is known as Simplex algorithm, which were developed later on. Simplex algorithm, which is simple consistent, and second is known as piezo. This is also very widely used. This is known as pressure implicit with splitting of operators. Okay. So just let me give a very quick recap of what is the simple algorithm. Okay, in 5 minutes, so that we can relate all the other methods to it. These four methods we should be able to relate to each other. Okay, and all of them are based. All the next three methods, simpler, simplex, and piezo, all of these three methods are based on simple. Okay, simple is the fundamental basic method, which showed a way how to relate the pressure to the continuity equation. Then all of them have followed the same footsteps, but with improved say convergence due to some modifications or faster convergence. Okay. So in the simple, if you remember what we have done, so we have taken a staggered grid. Okay, staggered grid. It does not matter if you don't take staggered grid, you have to do interpolate the velocity, and that causes some issues as we have seen previously. So we have taken a staggered grid, which means that the u velocities are on the left and right faces, v velocities are on the north and south faces. Similarly, there will be other velocities, w velocities on the top and bottom faces. Okay. And for the velocity control volume, like shown here by the, I think I will just recap this. We will keep it open here, but I will recap with respect to the larger image. But that needs to be open there because we have to refer to it again and again. So the control volume for the velocity was from a main grid point to the next main grid point. Okay, so the faces coincided with the main grid points, and the main control volume, like shown by the blue lines, the faces went through the grid points for the velocity. Okay, so as if the grid points are and the control volumes are shifted by half dx or half of the length of the control volume. Similarly, for the v velocity in the y direction. So u velocities are only shifted in the x direction, v are in the y direction, and w in the z direction. Okay. And then we assume that we can take some guess pressure. Okay, pressure is not given to us. We can take some guess pressure, and if I keep the algorithm open in this side parallelly, we can start with some guess pressure, which we call as P star, and solve the momentum equation. So the only reason we were not able to solve the momentum equation was because that the pressure was not known. Once you guess the pressure, all the other terms this AE and ANB terms can be calculated, because these just depend on the coefficients, just depend on Peclet number, as we know. And for the initial guess, some guess needs to be taken, otherwise this can be calculated based on whatever is the diffusivity and other things, known parameters, and source term will give us B. So by doing this, when we solve the momentum equation with this guess pressure, we get some incorrect velocities, which we called as U star, V star, and W star. If by chance the pressure is taken as correct, the velocities will be correct in this time step, in this iteration, and there is no need for any further calculation, because if the pressure is correct, velocity automatically is given correct by the momentum equations. So you have to solve 3 momentum equations. I have shown only one here. Similarly, there will be an equation for V and for W. Okay, and for both east side, west side, like this. So for every control volume, basically you have to solve. So by solving this, we got some incorrect velocity, which we had written as U star, V star, and W star. Okay, and then we have assumed that some correction term can be calculated, which when added to this incorrect velocities will give us the continuity and momentum satisfying velocity. These correction terms we called as U dash, V dash, and W dash, and P dash. Okay, and by definition, the meaning of correction term is U actual, means the actual U minus the star value. Okay, so that if we add this U dash to the star value, we get the actual value, means updated value. And based on this, we had calculated one equation for velocity correction relating it to pressure correction. Okay, so like AE UE minus UE star. So by subtracting the star momentum equation from the actual momentum equation. Okay, remember, in the actual momentum equation we don't know the velocities. Okay, so but in the star momentum equation we know the velocities, because those are based on the calculation. By subtracting these two one from the other equation, we got an equation which had the dash terms, the error terms, or the correction terms. Okay, AE dash is equal to summation ANB UNB dash plus PP dash minus P dash into AE. And at this point we omitted this term, because otherwise the equations become coupled, because each point will have all its neighboring points, and the neighboring point will be dependent on all its neighboring points. So it becomes fully coupled problem. So it becomes like a direct method, so not a iterative method. So this velocity will depend on the 4 neighboring velocities, but this itself depends on its 4 neighboring velocities. So indirectly this velocity depends on all the other neighboring velocities, means all the velocities in the entire domain, if we use the ANB UNB dash term. So that's why we omitted it. Okay, and we noted that does not cause any problem, because anyway when we reach the correct solution, the dash terms will be 0, means there is no correction required when you reach the correct solution. So star terms are itself the correct solution. Okay, so omission will not hamper the correct result, only it will hamper the rate of convergence. This was our next step, and then by substituting this, like after omitting and just rearranging the equation, we got some equations called UE dash equal to D in terms of pressure correction. And if we add that velocity correction to the star velocity, we get the actual velocity. We don't know the actual velocity, but we get the expression of the actual velocity. Okay, we don't even know UE dash, but UE star we know. Okay, so now this type of equations which we had formulated was replaced in the momentum equation to replace this UE, UW, all these terms, and this gave us an equation of pressure correction, like all the error terms in the pressure. So all the correction terms in the pressure and some source term which included all the star velocities which we already knew. So once this equation was there, we can solve this equation using any of the methods, P dash equation. Then calculate P by adding P star to P dash, means P dash to P star, so that we get the updated value of P, and calculate UVW using this type of equations. Okay. So U star is already known. Once P dash values are known, you can update the U value. Okay. This will not give directly the correct value because we had omitted some terms. And this was the method. So then we kept on repeating this again and again with the new updated P as the gas pressure P. Okay, this was our simple algorithm, and in the simpler we derived one more pressure equation in addition to pressure correction equation and started with a gas velocity. Okay, I am not going into the details. You can again go through it. Simple, I have gone through the details because it is related to our simplex algorithm which we are going to study today. But simpler is also related to simple, means all of them are based on simple. Okay. So with this background, let us move on to the next method, which is known as simplex. Okay, simple consistent, which was devised during the 1980s. So after the simple and after the simpler. Okay. So here, except one step, all the other steps are exactly same as the simple algorithm. Okay, all the steps are exactly same as simple algorithm. The only change that occurs in this position. Okay, if I go to the simple algorithm, now I will show here parallel. We have devised this equation, right? Derived this equation by subtracting the star equation from the actual equation. So AE UE dash is equal to summation A and B U and B dash plus PP dash minus P dash AE. Okay. So velocity corrections, neighboring velocity corrections, pressure correction, and we had omitted this term. Okay. If we do not omit the neighboring velocities, you cannot solve it. As I said, then all the velocities become coupled because the U velocity becomes coupled with its neighboring velocities. However, the neighboring point itself is coupled with its neighboring velocity. That itself is coupled with its neighboring velocity, like a chain reaction. So everything is coupled. The entire domain is coupled. So you cannot solve them. Okay. So we noted that omitting this term causes a large fluctuation. Okay. When we discussed about the drawbacks of simple and why simpler is better, we noted that omitting this term causes drastic pressure correction, exaggerated pressure corrections, which tends to sometimes slow down the convergence or even take it towards divergence. Okay. So one way was devised where the we anyway have to omit this. Okay, there is no way around it, but the omission is less stringent, means it is less drastic, you can say. Okay, so what was done was that instead of taking the U neighboring dash values, just it was replaced with UE dash itself. Okay, so what will happen is that if you omit the summation A and B U and B dash term, you are taking 0 in case of in this place of this term. Okay, in this place of this term you are taking 0, like when you are writing this equation. Instead of taking 0, you take something which is better than 0 but not exactly equal to summation A and B U and B dash. Okay, so what is this better value? Better than 0 but not exactly equal to the correct value. If we take summation A and B UE dash itself. Okay, so why? Because it is supposed that the correction velocities will be at least of the similar order of magnitude or nearby similar. Okay, although it is not exact, so UE dash will be somewhat similar to its neighboring dash velocities. Okay, so if we write like this, we can then write the same equation as, forget about this top equation, same equation as the bottom equation, UE dash equal to d pp dash minus p dash, where d is defined as, so remember that here now we have replaced UE dash. Okay, and we can take this to the other side, entire thing. So it will become UE dash into in bracket A minus summation A and B. Okay, so this d will have capital A divided by small a minus summation A and B, and this is the change that occurs in simplex. Okay, simple consistent. So UE dash we write as same form D PP dash minus P dash. However, D is not defined similar way as the simple. In the simple, we have defined D by AE. Okay, omitting this term entirely. Now we are defining it with respect to D is equal to A divided by A minus summation A and B. Okay, so some neighboring influence is brought into picture, but not in terms of the coupled velocities. Okay, however, the coefficients are brought into picture, and this actually results in better convergence. This leads to, as I have written here, whatever I have discussed, this leads to less significant omission. The omission is not as drastic as the previous case. Okay, as a result, the pressure correction is also not as drastic. And otherwise, the algorithm is exactly similar to simple. All the steps are exactly same as simple, what you have seen here. So in the algorithm, there is no change. But while calculating the P dash and other things, when you calculate this D, so this D has to be replaced with this formula of D instead of this. Okay, and this can be easily calculated because these coefficients are all known values. Okay. So this is known as simplex algorithm, simple consistent, and with this small change itself, it actually is very much better than the simple algorithm. It is case to case dependent, but in case of strong coupled flows, it has been seen. You cannot directly mathematically say, but from test cases, it has been seen that it is better, or it leads to faster convergence as compared to simple algorithm for more coupled flow, highly coupled flows. Okay. If there are other things which are highly coupled, say temperature distribution depends strongly on velocity field. In those cases, this will be simple or simpler will be much better than simple. And there are comparative studies and papers also, old papers from 1980s and 90s, which show this type of comparisons. Any questions? Otherwise, we will. You can still hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll move on to the last algorithm. Actually, this is also quite popular. So if you see any commercial tool, even simple is used, but the two most popular things for normal, means not compressible flow, for normal type of fluid flow situations is simpler and piezo. Okay. So this piezo is also based on, so what is the full form of piezo? It is pressure implicit with splitting of operators. So basically it occurs in two steps. That's why this name has come. And we will go through it in some details, brief detail. So this is also based on the simple algorithm. Okay, it is also based on the simple algorithm, but unlike simple, we have some extra steps to make it more accurate. Means so that the convergence is faster. Okay, similar to simpler algorithm, but the modifications here are slightly different. Okay, let us try to understand what is it. So it is an extension of the simple algorithm, and here we use one predictor and two corrector steps. I will come to what do I mean by predictor and corrector steps. So here we use one predictor and two corrector steps. Okay, in contrast to simple, where we had one predictor and one corrector step. Okay, what is this predictor and what is corrector step, or prediction and correction? So when we assume a gauge pressure field in simple, so we'll keep the simple open parallelly. Okay, when you assume the gauge pressure field and solve the momentum equation, okay, you get the star values, some velocities which are not correct unless the gauge pressure is correct. In case by chance or by luck, by like lottery, if you guess the pressure correctly, then the velocities will be correct. Otherwise, the velocities will not be correct. It will be just some predicted velocity based on gauge pressure. Okay, so this calculation of momentum equation, solving of momentum equation with the gauge pressure to predict the velocities, okay, is known as the predictor step. Okay, this is known as the predictor step. Like we are predicting the velocity by solving the momentum equations based on gauge velocity. This prediction may not be correct because the pressures are not correct. Then what is the corrector step in simple? The subsequent inter part is the corrector step. So corrector step means now because you have obtained the gauge velocity or some incorrect velocity U star, V star and W star, we devise some strategy so that we can add something to this star velocities to correct the velocity, to update the velocity. And we had, in our case, in simple, we had added a pressure correction difference. Okay, U star plus d pp dash minus pe dash. So by adding this difference, pressure correction difference, which we can write as velocity correction, we updated the velocity. This is known as corrector step. Okay, predictor step gives us U star, corrector steps gives us the updated U. Okay, again you keep on repeating another, in the next iteration, again one predictor, one corrector, like this. And for using this corrector step, intermediate within this part, you have to also calculate the pressure correction so that you can use that step. Okay. So if I go to the algorithm in simple, gauge pressure field, then you have the predictor step. So use the gauge pressure field to solve the momentum equation. This is the predictor step. Then solve the P dash equation. These are all intermediate steps. And then you have the corrector step. Calculate P and U VW by using velocity correction formula. Okay. So this was the case for simple. So in case of piezo, our predictor step and the first corrector step will remain exactly similar. Okay, I will show that. I will actually show the details, but they will be, in principle, they will be exactly same. We will use different notations, but actually the algorithm is exactly same for the first predictor and first corrector step. However, we add another correction, means another update to the velocity, because in one update we are going towards the convergence with towards some distance towards the correct value. By adding another step, another correction step, we can go further towards the correct value. Okay, but obviously one iteration will take more time because you have to do more calculation. However, it will lead to much less number of iterations to solve the problem. Okay, so in a single time step you will have much, means convergence will be much faster. So let us see the algorithm for this. Okay, for this piezo. So first so algorithm actually I have divided into three parts. First part is the predictor step. Predictor step, so I will keep the simple open because we will be referring to this. I am not rewriting everything here again. You can just relate it to the equations that are present in the simple algorithm because the equations are similar. Take the gauge pressure P star and solve the momentum equations to get U star, V star and W star. Okay. Take the gauge pressure P star. So these two steps are same as these two steps. Start with a gauge pressure and use the gauge pressure field to obtain momentum, like velocity, U star, V star and W star. And how will we get U star, V star and W star? By solving these momentum equations. Okay, by solving these momentum equations, three momentum equations for the each velocity, one momentum equation, and we have to solve it for each individual grid point. So in discretized form, there will be hundreds of momentum equations, discretized momentum equation. We get all the star values. Okay, so this is the predictor step. Obviously, these are not correct unless P star is guessed correctly, as I have repeatedly told. If you by luck or by lottery you guess P star correctly, then U star, V star and W star will be correct. No need of any further change. However, in general, obviously P star will not be correct, so U star, V star and W star will not be correct. Okay, this will be some predicted velocity. Then we go to the first corrector step. First corrector is exactly same as simple. Okay, exactly same as simple. In simple, we had written UE is equal to U star plus D PP dash minus PE dash. Okay. So where we had denoted this U velocities, which are the continuity satisfying velocities, in terms of non-star values. Okay. We will change the notation here, but the meaning will remain changed. So we'll change the notation because we have to add other steps. So we cannot just keep the same notation. So what we are going to do is that we will assume that there is a velocity field which satisfies the continuity equation, and that velocity field is given in terms of double star values, U double star, V double star, W double star. It satisfies the momentum and continuity equation P double star. Okay, so these double star values are the continuity satisfying values. Okay, it is same as this non-star values. Okay, now we can update, we can correct this value U star by adding some U dash value like we had done here. Okay, by adding some U dash value we can update this. Where is it? Yes, we can correct the U star and go towards the correct solution to obtain U double star, V double star and W double star value. Yet we don't know what are the double star values. Okay, at this point we have solved the momentum equations and guessed the pressure. So we know P star, we know U star, V star and W star. So these four values are known. However, P dash, U dash, V dash, W dash are not known, and P double star, U double star, V double star, W double star are also not known. Okay, only the single star values are known at this point in the first character step. Same as simple. Now we can formulate the exact same equation by subtracting the first equation from the second equation. Okay, we can form exactly similar equation and omit this term. Same as simple. We will omit this term, and you will get an equation like this. UE dash is equal to D PP dash minus PE dash. Exactly same formulation. Okay. However, U dash is defined as U double star minus U star. Okay, not U minus U star. Previously, U dash was defined as U minus U star. Here it is U double star minus U star. Otherwise, it's the same formulation. Okay. So now we can write UE double star is equal to UE star from this definition, U star plus the correction term UE dash, where UE dash is D PP dash minus PE dash. Okay. Again, remember at this point, what are the known values? UE star is the known value, UE double star is unknown, PP dash is unknown, PE dash is unknown. These are unknown, this is known, this is unknown. Okay. So we have to remember the logical sequence. Otherwise, if we just jumble up, then you will see that some values are not known and we cannot solve further. So at this point, these values are known. Star values are known, double star values are unknown, correction values are unknown, pressure correction values are unknown. If pressure correction values are unknown, velocity corrections are also unknown. Okay. Now, because this is a continuity satisfying field, but we have assumed that this is a continuity satisfying field, we can replace this continuity equation, discretized continuity equation, with these values. Okay, U star, UW star, VN star, VS, U is double star, UW double star, VN double star, VS double star, WT double star, and WB double star. Okay, replace these values with the star values, and because the double star values are not known, replace by double star values. Because the double star values are not known, you can then replace them by this formula. So instead of UE, we can write UE star plus DE PP dash minus PE dash. Exactly same as previous. Okay, like what we had done previously. Similarly, UW will be UW star plus DW PW dash minus PP dash. Okay, same thing. And you will get the same pressure correction equation as previously. You will get the same pressure correction. So use this UE double star and UW double star and all the other similar terms in the continuity equation to get the pressure correction equation. Same pressure correction equation, and the source term will also be same. U star, all the star values will be there. Remember, the star values are already known to us after the first solution of the momentum equation, but the P dash terms are unknown. So now we have to solve this P dash equation. We have to solve this pressure correction equation. Okay. Once we solve the pressure correction equation, we will know all the pressure correction values. So after that, we can update the pressure and velocity by using these equations. P double star is equal to P star plus P dash. U double star is equal to U star plus U dash. Instead of U dash, we will write D PP dash minus P dash. Because we have already calculated now the dash values of pressure, we can update all the pressure and velocities. Okay. So update the pressure and velocity using this formula. P star double star is equal to P star plus P dash. UE double star is equal to U star plus D PP dash minus P dash, and so on. Up to this point, so if we had stopped at this point, it would have become simple algorithm. Okay. Up to this point, there is no change with, no difference with simple. Okay. It is up to step 5 of simple. You can see there is no change in simple. Only the notation we have changed. Instead of P, we are writing P double star. Instead of UE, we are writing UE double star. But now instead of going for next iteration, we will continue in the same iteration. Okay. We will devise another equation. We will devise another correction equation now. Okay. So how to devise the second correction equation based on the logic of this, like based on the exact previous logic, what we have done. Same logic we are going to use to devise another correction equation. Just a second. We are recording. So in contrast to simple algorithm, in PISO there is a second correction step. Okay. So now what we are going to do is, if we go back to the momentum equation in simple, okay. This was with the gauge pressure. The general momentum equation was this, discretized momentum equation. AU is equal to summation A and B, U and B. I hope you can see this. It is quite small. If you have a laptop, you will be able to see it. Mobile, it is almost very small. AU is equal to summation A and B, U and B plus B plus A, PP minus P. This is the discretized momentum equation. Okay. And with gauge pressure, we have solved it to guess the star value. Okay. So now we will solve this with certain known values and certain unknown values. Okay. We will write this. We will not solve this. We will write this. Okay. So how we will write this? We will write this discretized momentum equation in terms of double star values, AE, UE, double star. Remember that we know already the double star values. Okay, we have updated in this step double star values. AUE double star is equal to summation A and B, U and B star, okay, plus B. This is the previous momentum equation, this momentum equation, okay, similar to that somewhat, plus B plus AE PP double star minus PE double star. All double star values are known. We have updated in the previous step. Okay, this entire equation is known. Something I have to check this part. In the book, it is given like this, what I have written, UNB star. Whether it actually double star will also work. This term will get omitted totally. So let us go with this, because this is the standard formulation for the algorithm. So now, if we assume that a second updated velocity field, which also satisfies the momentum equation, can be represented by triple star values. Okay. So double star means after the first updation. Single star means without any updation, just based on gauge pressure. Single star is just based on gauge pressure. Double star is after first updating. Triple star is after second updating. Okay. In that case, the momentum equations can be written if the pressure after second updating, the pressure is P triple star. Okay, PP triple star minus P triple star. Same momentum equation. And AE UE triple star is equal to, in terms of this we are writing as an approximate, as in terms of known value, or because triple star values are unknown but double star values are known. B is the source term. These pressures are also unknown. PP triple star and PE triple star are unknown. Double star values at this point are known. Okay. So we can subtract 1 from 2. Okay, we can subtract 1 from 2. If you subtract, what will you get? AE UE triple star minus UE double star. Okay, AE UE triple star minus UE double star. Let us call this as UE double dash. Okay, another correction term similar to UE dash, but now UE double dash. So where UE double dash is defined such that UE triple star is equal to UE double star plus UE double dash. So it is like another correction. So previous correction we had obtained UE double star. We add another correction to this updated value to get second updated value. Okay. However, at this point, do we know the value of UE double dash? We don't know. Okay. We only know UE double star. We don't know UE double dash, because it is the difference between UE triple star and UE triple star also we don't know. Okay. But we can write like this: A UE double dash is equal to summation of, either this can be written as UNB double star minus UNB star, or this can be omitted totally. Okay. Plus AE PP triple star minus PP double star. Okay, PP triple star minus PP double star. So let us call this as PP double dash. Okay, again another pressure correction, but this is the second pressure correction, not the first pressure correction. Double dash. Okay. So PP double dash is PP triple star minus PP double star. So we already know the double star terms, remember? So however, because we don't know the triple star terms, we don't know the double dash terms also. Similarly, PE double dash. Okay. So this is now our second correction equation. Okay, second correction equation. Now what we are going to do, we are going to use this formula, means UE triple star is equal to UE double star plus UE double dash. Same type of formula we are going to use, and where UE double dash can be written as in this form, A by, means in terms of known quantities it can be written. Okay, and pressure correction. So if you replace, where is the continuity equation? In the continuity equation, instead of UE, if you write UE triple star, okay, UE triple star is also unknown. Similarly, UW, write UW triple star, and then replace this in terms of this formula, UE double star plus UE double dash. Okay, where UE double star is known and UE double dash can be written from this divided by AE. Okay, and if you take this to be double star, this will go to 0. So AE by small a, PP double dash minus P double dash. So you will get all the terms, in all the terms you will get P double dash terms. Okay, second pressure correction terms and known values. All the double star values will be there. Okay, all double star values will be there, which will go into source term. So exactly similar to this equation, we will get another equation. I am not written it to save time, and so that you can practice also. You will get another equation which gives APPP double dash is equal to AEPE double dash plus AWPW double dash plus ANPN double dash plus ASPS double dash plus ATPT double dash plus APPB double dash plus B, where B has all known velocities, double star velocities. Okay, everything is known in B. So this unknown second pressure correction PP dash PE dash can be solved using the pressure correction, second pressure correction equation. This is the second pressure correction equation, which has been devised from the same moment, same continuity equation, but this is known as second pressure correction equation. Okay, so replace velocity terms in the continuity equation by similar expressions of UE triple star, UW triple star, etc. This will give a second pressure correction equation in terms of P double dash. Solve the P double dash equation, means second pressure correction equation we need to solve. Once we get the second pressure correction, you can again update the pressure similar to what we had done in the first corrector step, where we had taken P star plus P dash equal to P double star. Here we will add P double dash to P double star to get P triple star, and UE double dash to UE double star to get UE triple, UE double dash to UE double star to get UE triple star. Okay, so similarly we get updated values, second updated values, second corrected values. So this actually improves the movement towards the correct solution. Okay, leads more towards the convergence. Okay, so convergence, in many cases the rate of convergence increases if we use the second corrector step. Okay, so after this is done, again you go back to the initial point and start with P is equal to, so instead of gauge pressure, now you replace the pressure as P triple star, and wherever velocities are required, you replace with known velocities, U triple star, V triple star. Like for example, for solving other equations, temperature equations, means energy equation, you can use these values, U triple star, V triple star, W triple star, and then keep on repeating until convergence. So this is in summary, or in say in short, this is what is the piezo algorithm. Okay, so up to the first predictor and corrector step, it is exactly same as simple, but now we devise a second pressure correction equation, solve the second pressure correction equation exactly in the same way as we have done, and add this second pressure correction and velocity correction. Velocity correction is in terms of pressure correction, so we add the second correction to the first updated values to get a second time updated value, which enhances the tendency to go towards the correct solution in a single iteration. Okay, so this is known as piezo. Any questions? No questions. So just to conclude this, let me just briefly summarize what are the effect of these four types. Okay. So simple in general. So we have studied four types of algorithms. Okay, four popular algorithms, very popular algorithms. Simple, which was devised the earliest, then simpler, then Simplec and Piezo. Piezo is the later one. I forgot the exact year. Maybe in the 90s or late 80s it was devised. Simple, simpler, Simplec and Piezo. Okay. So in general, in all cases, simpler, Simplec and Piezo should be much faster than simple. Faster in the sense that the number of iterations in a single time step to get convergence is less. But each iteration is actually slower because you need more calculations in each iteration. So each iteration is slower, but the number of iterations is less. So overall, each time step is solved much faster. Okay, or the problem is solved. So you may need, for simple, say I need 0.5 second for one iteration, but for simpler or piezo, I need, instead of 0.5, I need 0.8 second for one iteration. Okay, so it has increased, 60% more time is required for one iteration. However, simple is giving convergence in 500 iterations, whereas simpler is giving convergence in 200 iterations. Okay, so we can see that the total time required for simple will be 500 into 0.5, so 250 seconds, whereas for simpler it will be 200 into 0.8, so 160 seconds. So less time will be required. So in general, simpler, piezo and simpler, all three will be faster than simple. Okay, all of them will be faster than simple if we compare to simple. Now, if we compare all of, means except simple, the other three algorithms, it is not very clear which one is faster. You cannot say that this is better than the other. It is very case dependent. Okay, so a lot of studies have been done. So in some cases it has been seen that simpler actually is faster. Some cases piezo is faster. Simplec, less chance is there, but it's some cases its performance is similar to simpler. In other cases simpler is better. Okay, so among simpler and piezo, there is lot of variation. It is very much case dependent, parameter dependent, lot of things. Actually, you cannot directly say mathematically this is faster, this is slower. It depends on lot of things. Okay. Typically, it has been seen by using actual CFD calculations that in general simpler and even Simplec also gives much faster convergence for very strongly coupled problems. Okay, strongly coupled means velocities and everything are strongly related to each other. All the parameters are very much coupled to each other. Okay. If the coupling is less between the momentum equation and the scalar equations, okay, means velocity is not strongly influencing the energy field or other fields, then piezo gives the better performance. It has been seen. Like again, this is just empirical evidence based on means studies, not that something which is mathematically proven, like based on rate of convergence or something. This is just empirical. Like after doing lot of comparison, people have come to this conclusion that in some cases where the problems are very strongly coupled, we get better results with simpler algorithm. Maybe it is better to use simpler. In some cases where actually it is not so strongly coupled, might be piezo is the better algorithm. Okay. Similarly, for compressible flows, there are other algorithms which we cannot study in this course. So if somebody works on research problem in compressible flow, he or she will get to know those other algorithms. So remember these things also, these algorithms can also take into account variation of density as we have discussed previously using equation of state like rho is equal to P by RT or similar other equations of state. But if the variation is very strong with pressure and density, like what happens at high speed flows like uh, almost near super transonic or supersonic flows, then those type of things cannot be captured. Like there is convergence is almost impossible in this type of algorithm. Okay, or shocks cannot be captured in this type of algorithm. Otherwise, if there is small dependence of pressure and density, then it can be captured any of this. Okay, so for compressible flows, you have to go to other algorithms. All the other things, like for example, turbulence problems also can be solved here. Like turbulent kinetic energy also equations can be developed similar to energy equation. Okay, and this whatever we have discussed can be used to solve those types of problems. So I have uploaded a couple of problem sets in this solved problem sets. Old students actually already know similar problems. So similar problem sets. There are not many problems that can be given. So in the folder, if you go to files, I hope you can see it. Solve material. Then set 1, set 2 and set 3. Okay. So you should go through these sets. You can try to solve them on your own. So first set has couple of problems on finite volume method, using finite volume method, which is part of the code, means syllabus this time in this exam. Okay. So similar to the problem that I had given in the exam for finite difference method, similar to that, but using finite volume method. Couple of one transient and one steady state problem. Then second one was actually this how to develop the 2D equations, discretized equation for convection diffusion problem. And then one or two problems from the one from the simple algorithm and one from the simpler algorithm. Okay, numerical problems. You should go through this. And all the notes, we will continue the class after the break. I have some small discussions, 1 more hour discussion is required. But just because we are discussing about this, you can also download all the notes. I will also upload the entire set of notes as a single PDF after the class. But otherwise, all the notes are there as CMTFE1, CMTFE2 like this up to CMTFE 22. Okay, today's class is 22. So up to CMTFE 22, all of them I will just bind them together and upload one single file. We also have the introduction PPT, but that was for the previous semester, and some small material that we will go through on the unstructured grids, just to give you a brief introduction to that. Okay. So up to this point was our syllabus. Actually, this piezo and other things also not included, but these are important to know. So we'll take a break and then we will continue after this break. I will give you a brief introduction on different types of grids and what are their usefulness. Okay, in what situation what type of grids are useful. We could not go through the problem part, but anyway, those if somebody is interested in those type of research, we can study later. Okay, how to solve in unstructured grid discretization, which is quite difficult and beyond the scope of this course. So let me take a small break and we will continue after that. It is showing microphone is muted. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. Why is it showing to me microphone is? Okay. Any questions regarding anything like about the exam or anything else? By the way, for the TA part, I have given you the options. I hope you have seen. Two very simple problems I have given. Okay. Any one of them you have to do assignment problems. So if I go to this assignments, so any one of them you can do. If you are not doing a project or a review or case study or like those options are also there. Otherwise, you have to do any one of these problems. But upload this means whatever you do, option 1, 2 or 4, upload the material here itself, means by submitting the assignment here itself. Do not send email to me. Okay, it is easier to track here. So one is on a unsteady problem. Unsteady one actually is easier because it is unsteady. Explicit method can be used. The other one is implicit, so you have to use TDMA, but it is 1D. And then many students are interested in doing short CFD projects. It can be very short also. Or you can do like some students are suggested either submit a report or summary or case study or something related to CFD. Okay, so these things have to be submitted by 25th of December. So 25th of December means you will get few days after the exam finishes. By night of 25th of December, because on 27th I have to grade. Those who are presenting, those who are doing projects, they may present on 25th night or 26th night. Most probably 26th night we will fix the date, or 26th evening or afternoon, morning, whatever is suitable. Okay, accordingly. And also please go through the problems that I have uploaded. It is important to get a understanding of those problems also. Okay, so although it is numbers are very few, but each of them is a longish type of problem. Otherwise, you can expect a lot of short questions. Short means like 2 marks or 3 marks, similar to that questions, and one or two, maybe one derivation, one problem, or one or two derivations like this. One derivation, one problem, somewhat like that. We have studied a lot of things like convection, diffusion. So from that part, you can expect something from the Navier-Stokes. I can ask you to write the algorithm for the say simple algorithm, not the if I ask you to write the simple algorithm, do not write everything. Okay, algorithm is the algorithm. This is the algorithm. These are the interview. All these steps means the derivation of the simple, but algorithm is only this. Okay. Any questions? Otherwise, we will move on to the the extra things.
Sir, previous like midsem, do you have expecting some short question, matlab, some solving of some short type of question, or sir, only that
Cannot understand your question. What do you mean? Previous
sir
midterms or solving?
in some sir, like midsem, which we have one question, sir, 5 grade point, and then solve it for and find the flux, that type of sir question.
This type of, huh? And there may be there,
Yes, sir.
but it may be based on
Means
finite
actually we have
volume.
to solve based on this what you taught this and in the schemes which you taught, sir.
That will be too difficult. But using simple finite volume method, there may be conduction type of problems, like I have given in the assignment. Using full convection diffusion problem, using numerically, that may be too difficult to solve. Okay, numerically in the exam. But there can be other type of question from the convection diffusion. For example, you can be asked to derive the say exact solution for the 1D analytical case, or you may be asked to derive the exponential scheme. Okay, so similar type of questions can be there, but problems may be there. Problems can be there, but not from the convection diffusion, because that will be too difficult to solve unless means not from this using say power law scheme or hybrid scheme, but it can be there similar to these problems. Similar to these problems. So, for example, consider a large plate of thickness, some thickness and some conductivity, and uniform heat generation occurs in the plate. The two faces of the plate are at certain temperature. Assume the gradient means it's a 1D problem. Assume that it's a 1D problem. Calculate the steady state temperature distribution using finite volume method. So we have our syllabus is starting from the beginning of the finite volume method. Anything related to finite volume method can be there. Okay. So starting from which page was it? 74. Starting from page 74 till page 181. Okay.
Means sir, in homework, which question you uploaded, that kind of question we can expect.
That can be asked. Yes, that type of question can be asked. May be asked, may not be asked, but yes, can be asked. So we will move on. Okay, I'll just give you a brief introduction to different types of grids. Till now, whatever we have studied, okay, till now whatever we have studied, we did not consider any means we did not discuss or like explicitly mention what is the type of the grid. Directly we had assumed that the grid is based on x direction, y direction, z direction, things like that. So as if all grids are on the Cartesian coordinate system. Okay, whenever I was this u momentum equation, v momentum equation, x direction, y direction, dou x, dou y, okay, like these terms, derivative with respect to x, y, and z. So all this discussion, entire course has been just assuming that we have Cartesian coordinate system. Okay, and Cartesian coordinate systems are very widely used for solving many problems, CFD problems, but not necessarily they are the only coordinate systems or only grid types that can be used. Okay, so now if you use a Cartesian coordinate system and the grids are aligned with the coordinate system, with the Cartesian coordinate system, it is known as Cartesian grid. Okay, and we have whatever we have studied is based on Cartesian grid. Okay, so these type of grids are known as structured grids. Okay, so this type of grids are known as structured grids. There are other types of structured grids. So we will discuss about what are structured grids, what are apart from Cartesian grids, what are other types of structured grids, what are their advantages and disadvantages, and then we will discuss what are unstructured grids. And we will see in many CFD problems we use unstructured grids. What is the advantage and disadvantage of unstructured grids? Okay, so in the next 40-45 minutes. So whatever we discuss, actually I have written everything here. You can just read it also, but I will just summarize and go through it once. Okay, so this type of, so your geometry may be either regular or irregular. What is a regular geometry? Say you have a square domain, rectangular domain, circular domain, cylindrical domain, spherical domain. All these are regular. Regular geometry does not mean that it has to be square or rectangle. It can be circular, cylindrical, spherical. All these are regular. Like it has a regular structure. It has a well identified structure. Okay. Irregular geometry means it deviates. You cannot fit a rectangle or circle or sphere or cube. Okay. It is arbitrary. So obviously most of the real life problems have irregular geometry. Okay. But there are a lot of problems which can be solved using regular geometry by taking suitable domain. So for example, flow over a car. Okay, flow over a car, or say flow over a cylinder, flow over a aerofoil. Here we can take a large domain the overall domain can be taken very large, so that the domain boundaries do not have any influence. If you take a very large domain, it does not matter whether you are taking a circular domain or a rectangular domain. If it is a 50 times larger than the aerofoil, then you can take a very large domain. Okay. However, many applications there is no option of like this. For example, you are solving a CFD problem for casting process, solidification in a, for say, for casting of automobile this cylinder block. Okay, automobile cylinder block. So you have a engine cylinder block, IC engine cylinder block, piston, the casing of the piston. Okay, that's a very complicated geometry. Cylinder block has a very complicated geometry. And the outer boundary will also be complicated, inner boundary will also be complicated. And you have to solve how the fluid flow occurs there, temperature evolves there, and solidification occurs. In those cases, it is very difficult. You cannot fit structure. You can fit structured grids, but sometimes it is too difficult to fit structured grids. Then in that case, you have to fit using unstructured grids like triangles and other types of unstructured grids, as we will discuss later. Okay, so depending on situation, there can be different types of grids. Both have their advantage and disadvantage. So we will discuss. Okay. Now structured grids need not be only based on coordinate system, Cartesian coordinate system. It can be based on cylindrical coordinate system or spherical coordinate system. Okay. So all of them are structured grids. So we will define what are the common characteristics of structured grids, so that we know which grids can be called as structured grids and which grids can be are known as unstructured grids. Okay. So if I take a, let me see this example. Let me just reduce the size a little bit. Say I have a discretized part like this. Okay, let the size be large itself. Discretized part like this. Okay, so some curved lines are there and some straight lines are there, and the entire grid is divided like this. Okay, so these lines are known as coordinate lines. Okay, these lines are known as coordinate lines. On the coordinate lines, you have the grid points. Okay, we can define the grid points on the coordinate line, and the control volumes then will be surrounding the grid point. So it will be somewhat like this. Second control volume will be somewhat like this. Okay, it will follow the curve, straight line, curve, straight line. So surrounding this. Okay, so if we can devise the grid structure like this, okay, in terms of coordinate lines, where we can define variables like I, J, and K, and the grid points increase in a linear fashion along the variable, like I is equal to 1, I equal to 2, I equal to 3, I equal to 4, like this can be denoted. Okay. So for example, here I say if I is 10, this one is I is 11, I 12. Okay. And J can be 8. So next row will be I 10, J 9, I 11, J 9, I 12, J 9. Okay. So in terms of sub index, we can define each grid point. Okay. X, Y, Z coordinate or R theta coordinate or some coordinate. So these indexes move along the coordinate lines, and the coordinate lines follow a certain direction. Okay. So the domain can be represented by coordinate lines, and grid points are placed at the intersection of the coordinate lines, like shown here. Okay. Need not be always straight lines. That is what I am saying. It can be curved lines also. However, it should follow a certain trajectory. The line cannot be like jumbled up like that, so that you cannot say that, means there cannot, it, if the line is there, it's fine. It can go in a very twisted manner also. But if there is no sequence, like you cannot say which is I and which is I plus 1, there is no linear sequence, then you cannot call it a structured grid. Okay. The most important and second point, and the very important point, is that interior grid points have same number of neighboring grid points. Okay, this is known as having same connectivity. So for example, this is an interior grid point. Okay, not boundary grid point. Interior means non-boundary grid points. This is an interior grid point. If it is just a 2D grid, it has 4 neighboring grid points. 1, 2, 3, 4, east, west, north, south. If it is 3D, we will have 6 neighboring grid points. Okay. Now the next grid point will also have the same number of neighbors, east, west, north, south, or if it is 3D, east, west, north, south, top, bottom. So 6 or 4, depending on the whether it's 1D, 2D or 3D problem. Okay. So number of neighboring grid points is fixed for each of these grid points. This also has same number of neighbors. This also has same number of neighbors. This is a very important point from the point of view of discretization. You may think why it is so important. Why it is so important? Can anyone say? Having the same number of what benefit will we have if we have same number of neighboring grid points?
Terms and equations will be same.
All these equations will be similar in correct. All the equations
Yes,
will
sir.
be similar in nature. Means when I write AP phi P is equal to AE phi E plus AW phi W plus AN phi N plus AS phi S plus B. Like this we have derived the equation. I can use it for any grid point. AP phi P is equal to AE phi E, AW phi W plus AN phi N plus AS phi S plus B. I can just shift the index but use the same formulation, similar formulation. However, if you say instead of 4 you have 5 neighboring grid points, then you cannot fit the same formulation. Your fluxes and all other calculations will not be same. Okay, so you cannot have AP phi P is equal to AE phi E plus AW, like east, west, north, south. There are more numbers than east, west, north, south like this. So the equations becomes much more complicated. You cannot directly solve them. And if you cannot directly formulate them in the same pattern, you cannot put them in a matrix form like we have done previously. Right? It is much more difficult, or it is not possible. Means matrix will have unequal number of rows, so you have to pad them with extra zeros or something like that. Okay. So structured grids will always have same connectivity. Means each grid point will have same number of neighbors wherever you take for any internal grid points. It does not matter whether it is Cartesian or other types. Okay, whether it is Cartesian, whether it is spherical or cylindrical. Okay. And the third point is that the grid points can be mapped into a matrix. Okay, so each grid point location can be defined in terms of some index. Okay, for example, this grid point, I can say that if I know the value of I, J and K, I can pinpoint what is this grid. If I is 10, J is 8 and K is 2, I can say that grid number location is given by the index 10, 8, 2. Similarly, this will be 11, 8, 2. This will be 9, 8, 2. This will be 10, 9, 2, like this. Okay. So each location of each grid point in the grid structure is given by index, and as a result they can be mapped into a matrix. Okay. So they can be written in matrix form, all this grid structure. So like when you are solving the problem, if it is you are solving a 2D problem, you can have a two-dimensional matrix. So if I have 100 division along X and 100 division along Y, my matrix will be a 100 by 100 matrix. So there will be 10,000 points where I will go from 1 to 100 and J will go from 1 to 100. Okay. So each variable now I can represent at this 10,000 points. Like for example, temperature or velocity, we can store as in a 100 by 100 matrix. Temperature at each point I can, so at some point like say 10, 4, I can get by seeing the element in the temperature matrix, what is the 10, 4 element in the temperature matrix. Okay. So it is very important in that sense that we can map it to some matrix. Is it clear? Is the point clear to you? Okay. Hope this is clear. 3 points. Domain can be represented by coordinate lines, and grid points are placed at the intersection of the coordinate lines. Second point, very important, same connectivity. And third point is that we can map this grid structure to some matrix, one dimensional matrix like a vector, or 2-dimensional matrix, or a 3-dimensional matrix. And all variables can be represented by similar size matrix like temperature. If our grid size is 100 by 100, temperature will also have 100 by 100 points. Velocity also, U velocity will also have 100 by 100 points. V velocity will also have 100 by 100 points. Pressure will also have 100 by 100 points. Okay. So this is very important. It means that you can solve them. So all of them are mapped together. And then it is clear what is the advantage. Forming the discretized equation is much simple in this case, like we have done already. That's why we have studied it. Calculation of flux is very easy, because you have well-defined boundaries at equidistance from the grid points. Calculation of flux is very easy. And in general, the formation of the discretized equation is easy, and solving them is also easy because you can map them to certain matrix and do the calculation in a much easier way. Okay. So what are some examples? Let us go through some known examples. Okay. There can be other types also. So first example very well known to us is Cartesian grid, which we have already studied in entire course. So you already know the definition. It is based on the Cartesian coordinates. This Cartesian grid is based on Cartesian coordinate, where the lines, coordinate lines, are along the coordinate direction. So we have lines along x direction and along y direction, straight lines, and the grid points change along x direction and y direction, like I have shown here. Okay, so grid points change. It goes from, say, I changes from in the x direction and j changes in the y direction. So if this is I comma j, this is I comma j plus 1. This is I comma j minus 1. This is I plus 1 comma j. Like this, you can calculate. Grids are generated using Cartesian coordinate system. This is very suitable for regular rectangular geometry, obviously, because it is based on Cartesian coordinate system. It is suitable for rectangular or rectangular parallelepiped cubic geometry or any similar step geometry. It means rectangular step geometry, things like that. Okay. So, and if we have such a geometry, this is the best option. If we have a regular geometry like rectangular geometry, it makes much more sense to use this instead of, say, fitting it with triangles. So if you by default generate a mesh with triangles, it must be much easier in ANSYS to generate by using triangles. But your calculation will be much more accurate if you use Cartesian grid for a rectangular domain or a cubic domain. Okay, instead of fitting triangles or other non-regular control volumes. Because it depends on the flux calculation. And here always the interfaces are perpendicular to the line joining the grid point. So the flux is always along the line joining the grid points. So flux calculation does not induce any error. If by chance so this is also known as orthogonal, means the coordinate lines are orthogonal, means are at 90-degree angle to each other. If the lines are not orthogonal, if they are not at 90-degree angle, then the flux calculation is more difficult because you have the grid point values, say this ij value and I plus 1 j value, and if I have an interface here which is not perpendicular to this line, it is slanted, the flux across that face should always be in the perpendicular direction of the face. But the perpendicular direction of the face does not coincide with this line going from ij to I plus 1j. Okay. As a result, if I just take a difference, that ti plus 1 comma j minus ti comma j, that will not give us correct flux. So you have to devise some strategy to actually get the correct flux. It is much more complicated. Okay. So that's why it is always better to get more accurate results. We should use Cartesian grids for rectangular or similar type of geometry instead of by just generating default geometry in ANSYS. Okay, many students make that mistake. Now it does not mean that we cannot use Cartesian grids for irregular geometry. We can use it, but it becomes much more difficult and leads to more errors. So how to fit irregular geometry? For example, you have flow over aerofoil. So the inner part, the aerofoil structure over which the flow occurs, has to be represented in Cartesian, this type of regular geometry. So the option is then to divide it into rectangles, small rectangles. Okay. So the geometry, the face will look like steps. Okay, it will look like steps. Instead of smooth face, it will look like steps. Okay, outside also you will have grids, so you will have an entire square domain, and it will have rectangles, and some rectangles will, so you cannot have half rectangles. So either the rectangles, full rectangles, you will consider as aerofoil, or it is outside the aerofoil. So the aerofoil will look like something like this red line instead of the blue line. Okay, stepwise approximation of profile will be there. And can you say what is the problem with the stepwise profile? Means accuracy will be reduced, but why accuracy is reduced? What accuracy? For what the accuracy is reduced? Which type of terms? Say flow of hot fluid over this aerofoil we are solving. So for which type of terms the accuracy will be drastically affected if we use stepwise profile like this? If you use Cartesian coordinate system, a stepwise profile like this. Any answer? Old students, means BTech students who had done the CFD course, who are there. Not many are there today. Suman, any answer?
Yes, sir.
No idea. So what about the wall terms? Wall terms means wall shear stress and wall heat flux. They are based on the shape of the profile, like k dt dx, minus k dt dx, minus or mu del u del y, this type of terms. Okay. So if you cannot capture the shape correctly, the wall terms like wall shear stress or wall heat transfer at the wall, this type of terms will become more inaccurate. Okay. This is a very important point. And
And sir,
another
the
point, yes,
boundary condition which you have at the wall will not get it correctly.
no, there is no boundary condition at the wall. The boundary condition is at the domain, outside the domain. Like if I go, I have some examples also. So this is say we have a domain like this. Okay, I hope you can see this. We have a domain like
Yes,
this.
sir.
We want to solve the flow over the circle, okay, or cylinder. Flow will come from this direction and pass over this direction. So this is not a boundary, okay, this is just internal solid part. Boundary is outside, this one is boundary, and I can give boundary condition like u is equal to 10 meter per second on the left side, and some other boundary condition here, pressure, and both top and bottom I can say that no slip condition.
This
So
is the object in my
in your domain. So when you calculate, later you want to find out what is the shear stress along this cylinder, if or you want to calculate the lift or drag, or say what is the heat flux from the cylinder if this is a heated cylinder. In those type of terms, you have to calculate minus k dt dx or minus or mu del u del y type of terms at this line interface. Okay, and it will become much more inaccurate if you cannot properly capture this shape. So how will you represent it in Cartesian coordinate system? Like this. So this is the circle now. Okay, you can see that it is much more approximate. It's the same problem. Okay, we are trying to solve in a Cartesian coordinate system, so we will have flow from here, and our circle will look like this. Is it clear to you now? You can see how much
yes, sir.
inapproximate. So how to increase the accuracy of this? How will we make it
Taking
more
smaller
accurate?
grid,
Smaller grids, correct. We can make it much finer grid. That is what we do. We solve all our problems in Cartesian system like research problems, but we solve for cylinders or other geometries where we take very fine grid so that it can be nicely approximated. Okay, like a circle itself. So I will show you maybe one or two result also. Even in Cartesian also the circles look quite nice. Okay, it looks quite smooth. So even with very less resolution it's possible, but then we use some tricks there. Okay. Instead of 0, 1, we have some intermediate values. Otherwise, this is how it will look like. So the problem is that if you go to very fine grids, what is the problem? Accuracy will be better, but then what will be the problem? It is a fine
solution
grid.
time will be more.
Solution time is more, and also storage space means if you have to store the data, right? All the
Yes.
data, I'll calculate that also will increase. Okay. And cells need to be blocked out. If your problem has a squared domain, but you don't want, so not for this case, for other cases it may happen that the outside surface is curved, but you cannot take a curved surface, you have to take always a straight surface. So some of the cells have to be blocked out, okay, which is considered out of the boundary. Okay, I will show you one example, then it will not from this case but from some of my research. We have time, it will give you some idea. So let me show you some old result. Okay, some old result. We had an actual experiment like this. Actual experiment for aluminum casting, which had a domain like this, and we wanted to solve it in Cartesian coordinate system because our code was written in Cartesian coordinate system. However, you can see that what is there? There is a cavity and liquid metal is poured and it solidifies within it with some shrinkage and other things. Okay, so liquid metal is poured, it solidifies, and it solidifies like this, and there is some shrinkage. So the actual domain is not rectangular, right? It is rectangular up to certain point, then there is another rectangle on top of it, okay, which is smaller in size. However, I cannot take that because our code can only take the entire domain. Okay, our code can only take the entire domain. So the way we have to solve is that we take the entire rectangle and we block out these regions, outside regions, the grid points which are at the outside regions, we give zero thermal conductivity and things like that, so that ultimately you get, I don't know whether I have results or not. May not be present, I think. Should have been there. We have time, so I'm just showing to give you some feel how actual CFD results look like. I don't think it is here. Anyway, let us come back to this. We have to finish in time. Okay, but that is what I mean by blocking of extra cells which are not taking part in the calculation. Okay, so you have to involve them in the calculation because your eye has to go from 1 to 100 for any length, any height. But in some of those cases, you can just take zero values as if there is nothing present there. Approximation at the wall leads to error in calculation of wall shear heat flux that we have just told. Fine mesh can be used for capturing the geometry more accurately, but this will lead to more computational effort and storage space. Okay. Similarly, we can also develop structured grid in cylindrical or spherical coordinate system. Okay, it will be exactly similar, but in cylindrical or spherical coordinate system. For example, I have shown here a cylindrical coordinate system where again you have now one coordinate line is along the r direction, second one is along the theta direction, and one will be along the z direction, like the axis of the cylinder, okay, which is not shown here. So it is structured because it follows the same structure, means I is increasing along the r direction. So if this is I, this is I plus 1 and this is I minus 1. Okay, j is increasing along the theta direction. So if this is j, this is j plus 1, I comma j plus 1. This is I comma j plus 2, I comma j plus 3, like this. Okay, so same, and number of neighboring points for internal grid points like these points. Okay, not the, this will have 4 points again, similar to previous cases, except this one. This is a special case. And so again, so in these cases, I have seen students make a lot of mistakes when they try to solve flow in a cylinder. Okay, in those cases, sometimes they take unstructured grid because it is just easy to generate the mesh using unstructured grid, but that leads to lot of means calculation convergence chances will decrease in those cases if you take unstructured grid in those cases. Okay, for example, say if I have some let me see. So if I can zoom it, this is very nicely structured grid for a cylinder, but internally the student has put some unstructured part, okay, by default. So by default, ANSYS has taken unstructured part. If he had used manually, if he had created, it would have been structured and better. Okay, using the unstructured part here reduces the chances of convergence slightly. Okay, although we will get the correct result, but chances of convergence is reduced slightly because this is very structured geometry, a cylindrical geometry. So there is no need of taking unstructured grid here in this case. Okay. Same for spherical also. Okay, so these are one type: cylindrical, spherical, and Cartesian. Then these are not the only type of structured grids. There are other type of structured grids. The second type are known as body fitted grids. Okay, this Cartesian, all these were also structured grids. So these body fitted grids are where the actual domain or the object of interest is not regular domain. However, still our coordinate lines are defined in such a way so that they coincide with the domain boundaries. I will show you two examples. There are two types again of body fitted grids. One is known as orthogonal and one is non-orthogonal. Okay. Remember, orthogonal, by the name itself, it is clear that the lines will be perpendicular to each other. Non-orthogonal means lines will not be perpendicular to each other. Okay. So again, same aerofoil structure like I have shown here. But instead of Cartesian system, remember we are solving at the outside. Okay. We take this curvilinear system, orthogonal curvilinear mesh. Okay, so it is varying linearly. It goes like this, follows the track, and again goes out like this. Okay, same part, second one goes like this. So this is a coordinate line. Okay, here it is not following XYZ direction, but still you can define the index. So for example, if this is I equal to 1, this will be I equal to 2, I3, I4, I5, I6, 7, 8 like this, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16 like this. So this you can see that the I is linearly increasing along the line, although the line does not follow any coordinate direction. Okay, so I starts from here and goes increasing along here and again keeps on going increasing. So this entire line is a single coordinate line. Similarly, same case, and these can be considered as other coordinate lines, and these are perpendicular to these coordinate lines at any point. So this is perpendicular at this point, all these points are perpendicular. Okay, all these grid points, any intersection is both lines are perpendicular. This is known as orthogonal curvilinear mesh, and actually will give you the most accurate type of results for this type of geometry. You cannot use this because this will give you inaccurate result. Here all the calculations will be very accurate because you have grids which are actually coinciding with the actual geometry, and you will define all the equations. But because these are orthogonal and because these are structured, means all of them have same number of neighbors. So for example, this has 4 neighbors, this has 4 neighbors. So again, same properties are there. You can again devise all your equations in a similar manner. Only the delta x, delta y, all those values will change. Otherwise, all the equation will be similar. Flux calculation is also similar because these are perpendicular. Okay. So this is the other type, orthogonal curvilinear. Another body fitted grid is same thing, but instead of perpendicular, if we take not perpendicular case, this may be required in some cases where you cannot take orthogonal grids. Okay, so say here we could have taken orthogonal, but just to show you an example, I have shown you non-orthogonal curvilinear fit. But there may be other complicated cases where you cannot take orthogonal. Okay, so for example, here see this line, coordinate line. Again, it is just increasing I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So following a linear pattern 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and J is increasing along these directions. So this is a structured grid. Each has 4 neighboring points also. It is a structured grid. However, the lines here are not perpendicular. It's clear that this line is not perpendicular to this line, vertical line. It is not perpendicular here. This line is not perpendicular to this line. Okay. These lines are not perpendicular. If it was perpendicular, this vertical line, instead of being vertical, it would have curved like this. Okay, because it is not curved like this, it is not perpendicular, it's clear. And as a result, the flux calculation will be more difficult. So the governing equations will be more complex in this case. Mesh lines are not perpendicular to each other at their intersection. Governing equations are more complex. However, it is similar to other structured mesh. One difficulty in structured mesh, all the structured mesh that we have studied till now, is that you cannot make local refinement. Okay, because of the nature of the coordinate lines, you cannot make local refinement. If something, say I want very fine grid at some point here. Okay, I have to refine the entire grid. I cannot just locally refine it. Okay, like what this student had done. Locally, he could refine it because he used the unstructured grid. He could refine it very fine. But if it is structured grid, if you want to have a very fine grid here, all the other grids will also become finer because you have to follow the same line. So if you increase the number of lines to twice, these grids will also become finer. But I don't need fine grids there. I just want it locally where the maximum change is occurring. That is not possible in any of these. If you want to refine, say, this part, you have to make the line closer, but the line will become close in all the other parts also. Okay, number of lines has to be increased everywhere. So local refinement is not possible for any of these cases. However, there is a type of structured mesh where local refinement is possible, and we'll come to that. So this is the last type of structured mesh that we are going to see. We have seen Cartesian, cylindrical, spherical, and then orthogonal curvilinear and non-orthogonal curvilinear. In all these cases, the mesh structure is same within the domain. But there can be cases where you can divide the domain into multiple subdomains, okay, which are known as blocks. And each block has its own type of structured mesh. The the structure can be totally defined. For example, in the inside, I can have, say, non-orthogonal curvilinear mesh. Outside, I could have put Cartesian coordinate mesh also. So need not be same type of mesh also. Inside it can be non-orthogonal curvilinear, outside it can be Cartesian, depending on the problem. So here you can see we have two blocks. One is the inside block, one is the outside block. Now I can have local refinement. I can, for the inside block, I can take very fine grid. For the outside block, I can take very coarse grid. Okay. So in this block structure grid, you divide the domain into multiple regions. Each region is known as a block and has a separate structure grid. It can be multiple. So I could have solved that problem like I had shown here. Now it is again closed. Now it is open. I could have solved this problem also by taking a block structure mesh. This will be one block and this will be another block. Okay, two separate blocks I could have taken. Although I did not do it because equations have become much more complicated. So block structure mesh, you need to do more implementation is more difficult. Okay, you have to implement the code of solver blockwise. For each block, you have to separately implement the code. Okay. However, advantage is that fine grids can be used locally, but the implementation becomes difficult. Okay, these are sometimes used when you need large number of cases to solve, and the runtime is very large. You need local refinement, things like that. Okay, so when cases are there where implementation time is not very important, but runtime is important, then you can go for complex systems. Like for example, it takes one engineer to implement a mesh 1 week, but actual simulation will run for 2 months. Okay, then it makes sense to go for complicated system. So instead of 1 week, if it takes 2 weeks to develop his geometry, but in a better way, so that the simulation runtime can decrease from 2 months to 1 month, that is better. But as a researcher, when I am looking at, say, I can implement something in 10 minutes, and if I want to, or in say 2 hours, but in that case, if I try to go for more complicated geometry, if I have to implement for one week, okay, instead of 2 hours, but the simulation will run for only 10 hours, then it does not make sense to me. In those cases, it is better to go with more simpler type of structured geometry, which will run faster. Anyway, because which will not run faster, which will be
Total
easy
time
to
should be less.
implementation is easy. Yes. So these all of them are known as structured mesh. I will show you some realist means how it will actually look like after implementation. Then we will finish with an example of unstructured grid. Okay, this is Cartesian grid, same circle. Okay, flow over the circle. This is flow over the circle with orthogonal grid. All the lines are perpendicular to each other. Okay, it will be actually this will be circular lines. This is non-orthogonal, like I have shown. Okay, lines are not perpendicular to each other. This is block mesh, block structure mesh. Okay, two separate blocks are there. So, and this is unstructured grid. Okay, by default, if you generate this part, you can see internal part, you can see structure, but external part, you can see there is no structure to it. Means you cannot fit any coordinate line which is going from I is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. Okay, there is no set pattern. Like if this is I equal to 1, whether I should call this as I2 or this as I2, there is no guarantee. Or whether this is I equal to 2, how will you define? It is not possible. There is no trend that is followed. Okay, so let me just formally discuss what is unstructured grid and what are its advantages and disadvantages. So what are the advantages of structured grids? One is that implementation is very easy. I mean, very easy means as compared to unstructured grids. Equations are simple to write. You can write the derivatives easily. You can write in a structured form. You can calculate using metrics, okay, 2D or 3D metrics. So implementation is easy. In some cases where we have regular geometry like a rectangle or pipe, cylindrical, many physical problems have regular geometry like flow through a pipe, very common problem. Like oil pipeline industry, oil industry, if you are working, all of the simulations will be flow through some oil pipe or something like that. So in those cases, there does not make any sense to use unstructured mesh because structured mesh will give you more accurate results, more better results. Okay, chances of convergence will be higher. Similarly, say flow in a room, rectangular or cubic room, or say in a data center, you have a large data center which is like a large rectangular room. Okay, and there are heated computers which are like heat source. All this actually structured mesh which will be useful. So implementation is easy. Simulations will run faster if it is a regular geometry. Accuracy will be more if it is a regular geometry. If it is a irregular geometry, then fitting the mesh may be very difficult, like I have shown in these cases. Imagine that instead of aerofoil, this is a totally irregular geometry. Then it is, again, you can use stepwise profile, but it will lead to inaccuracy and other difficulties. Okay, mesh creation will be difficult. So in unstructured grid, on the opposite hand, it is just the opposite of structure. Okay, there is no structure of the or no coordinate lines can be defined. Okay, there are no proper coordinate lines. There are no lines which vary along any direction. Second point is that number of neighboring cells is not fixed. So connectivity is not same. I will show you one example. Okay. No limitation on control volume shape. Control volume can be of any shape. In general, we use triangles and quadrilaterals in 2D and tetrahedrals and hexahedrals in 3D. But anything can be used. Instead of triangles or quadrilaterals, like 3 corners, quadrilaterals 4 corners, I can use hexagons also. I can use octagons. If I am a crazy researcher, I want to use other type of control volume, I can use dodecahedrons or something like that, 12 corners, 15 corners. It will be very difficult to solve, but it is possible to use. In final means method allows it, but it might be like very crazy to use a control volume with 15 corners. Okay, but still it is possible. So any type of shape is allowed. However, in general, triangles and quadrilaterals used. Most common is triangles because you can fit any geometry very easily with a certain set of triangles, larger and smaller triangles. Okay, it is very easy to fit any geometry like I have shown here. So you can change the size of the triangles and any empty spaces there can be easily filled with some combination of triangles. It is very easy to fit. Any complex geometry is there, you can always fit triangles. Okay. However, it is recommended to use quadrilaterals in case if you don't use, are unable to use quadrilaterals in 2D or hexahedral mesh in 3D. Hexahedral are like cubic or rectangular cubic type of structure. In those cases, it is recommended that you use tetrahedrals. Like tetrahedral means 4-pointed 3D structures. Okay, which is the extension of triangles in 2D. Okay. Or pyramid-like structure also you can use. What are other points? Mesh can also be a hybrid, like some part is hexahedral, some part is tetrahedral. Okay, for example, triangles and quadrilaterals here. Okay, mesh can be hybrid. And there are examples which is suitable. For example, for flow around cylinder, near the cylinder it is better to have quadrilaterals. Okay, like I have shown here. Near the cylinder is better to have quadrilaterals because it captures the flow around the cylinder more accurately, viscous effect more accurately, gives better resolution of the viscous effects. And farther away, we can use large triangles to reduce the computational effort. Okay. Another important point is that locally now you can refine the mesh. So for this aerofoil structure, for this aerofoil structure that we were studying, if I want that the mesh should be very fine only at this leading portion and at the just at the tip trailing portion to capture the effect of say vortex shading or something like that, then I can locally fit lot of triangles here, but further away I need not have large number of triangles. This is possible because connectivity is not same. So each triangle need not have same number of neighboring triangles. One large triangle can have 10 neighboring triangles. Okay, that's why it is possible to have much more finer refinement. Okay, adaptive mesh generation is easier. These are all advantages. Disadvantage is that it is much more difficult to implement and the discretized equations are much complicated and accuracy is lower as compared to structured grids. Okay, accuracy will always obviously suffer. Why it will suffer? Because your calculation of fluxes and other things are not accurate because the interfaces between two grid points are not perpendicular. Okay, it is at some angle, and as a result the flux calculation is not 100% accurate. It has some error in it. So this is an example for the same problem, aerofoil structure. If you want to fit in a, this I have just given a crude example. If you want to fit in a unstructured grid, this is an example of unstructured. I have fitted triangles. I could have fitted more triangles here. Need not be all triangles. For example, you can see this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. This is a pentagon. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is also pentagon. These are triangles. Okay, there are some quadrilaterals. Then if you see connectivity, this has one neighboring cell, two neighboring cell, three neighboring, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 neighboring cells for this one. However, for this one or this one, you can have 1, 2, 3. Neighboring cells means common faces. Wherever there are common faces, these are called neighboring cells. This has only 3 neighboring cells. So it can also change. Connectivity can also change. So this is known as unstructured grid, and typically we use a lot of unstructured grid in CFD problems when we are unable to develop or unable to fit structured grid in the problem. In those cases, we use unstructured grid. For many research problems, we still try to use structured grids because the physics is complicated, but the actual geometry is very simple. And in real life application in industry, sometimes the physics is easy, but the geometry is very complicated, like casting in a cylinder block or something like that. Okay, geometry is complicated. Flow in a over a Formula One car, very complicated geometry. So in those cases, you have to use very like some unstructured grid. But when you develop this unstructured grid, many times the grid quality will be poor. So you have to again refine the mesh to see whether you are getting correct convergence or not. So the chances of convergence is reduced if you use unstructured mesh. So you have to then see what is causing problem. Then again you have to change the mesh. Again, if you see that convergence is not occurring, again you have to change the mesh. Like this, you have to go on again and again unless you get proper convergence. So mesh plays a very important role in convergence. Okay. Unless you have a very good mesh, quality mesh, convergence will not happen. So with this, we will just close this class. I hope it was useful and go through the problems what I have given. Any other questions? This PPT also I have uploaded in case you want to go through it. This is also part of the syllabus. Okay, whatever till the end, whatever we have discussed, so everything is there. This is PPT CMTFE grids. Okay, just to show you the examples. Otherwise, we will just conclude, and I wish you all the best in the exams. Okay, our last gas turbine classes. Okay,
Next time.
and today attendance is low. Let me just take the attendance. Okay, manually. Just wait for 1 minute. It will hardly take some time, but because you guys are here, you should. It's better to. Date is 8/12/20, and so I will just call the names. Quickly see who else who are present. P. Sai Dikshit. Sai Dikshit not present. Okay, I can do like this. Just a second. So Pisai Dixit is not present. Then Shubham not present. Nikhilesh present. Karthik I do not see. Nikhilesh is present. Suraj is present. Paritosh I don't see. Aniket also I don't see. Alapan not present. Yash is present. So only Nikhilesh and Yash from the BTech batch. Vishnu is present. And Mainak is not present. So Nikhilesh, Yash and Vishnu are present. Prabhat Kumar Mishra absent. Shivangsh is present. Kishan Sai present. Is absent. Venkata Rajendra present. Atul present. Ramcharan present. Suman present. Ashwini Kumar present. Gaurav Srivastav present. Gulshan Kumar present. Pujari present. Nilesh Kumar present. Chintu Sai present. Sudipto Das present. Lokesh I don't see Lokesh. Lokesh is not present. Somesh was there, right? Initially I have seen. Somesh is present. Yes, sir. So Lokesh absent. Prabhat Kumar Mishra absent. And then
Sir, Prabhat, sir, please, sir.
where are you? Where are you, Prabhat?
Sir, I was absent, sir, but please, sir, just join, sir.
Just join for the attendance.
Yes, sir.